Hello everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'll be showing you how to make this simple resume using HTML and CSS. So first thing, we're going to create a new folder on our desktop and call it tutorials. Inside tutorials, we're going to create another new folder and we shall call it HTML CSS resume. So after creating this folder, we shall right click and open in VS Code. Now that we have our folder opened in VS Code, we shall create a new file. We call it index.html, and then we shall create another file and call it styles.css. So starting with the index.html, we shall create HTML structure. You press Shift exclamation mark and press enter. It will create for you HTML structure. We shall change the title to HTML CSS resume, and then below the title we shall link our CSS, though it's still empty. So we just type link and we link our styles.css. So after that, we shall go just below the body. We shall create a div and give it a class wrapper. Press enter. Inside the wrapper, we shall create another div and give it a class of a header. And in our header, we have our H1, which is gender, and then we have H4, the job title, which is social media manager. So after that, we shall create a paragraph with a description. So the description, you can change it to your job title description. So for now, we shall just put some dummy content. So after the class header, which is HR, right below the HR, we shall create a section and we give it a class of skills. And also we shall create another class, grid container. And inside the grid container, we shall create another div with a class of grid item. So inside the grid item, we are going to have an H3, which has skills. Then we shall copy again this grid item, paste it below. But this time around, we are going to have list items. And then we list the skills here. So if you have your skills somewhere, you can just list them out here. So I'll just write a few skills. So we are done listing the skills. Also, let's now write the actual bio here. So that is all. So let's view what we have so far. You right click and open with live server. So you can see that's what we have. So below this section, we shall create another HR that is horizontal. That's an horizontal line, as you can see here. Those are the lines. We shall create a section and call it education. Inside education, we are again going to create a grid container. So we can simply come here and just copy this, or what you can do, just minimize that and then copy this entire grid container. Come here and paste it, and then we shall customize it here from skills. We change it to education, and then in our grid item, the second grid item, instead of lists, we're gonna have a small subheading here. We call it H4, major in communications, and then describe it. So let's put it there, Bachelor of Arts. You write depending on what you've got, so you can make it as accurate as possible. So we are again going to copy this H4 and P, paste it, and paste it again. So what we are going to do, we are just going to customize the education, the school, social media producer, since the job is related to social media, marketing. You can change the schools and specify the years. So when we go back, this is what we have. Skills, education. Now the next section is experience. So let's go back. Just below this section, we can create another horizontal line. And for experience, we are also going to copy this same. So just minimize this section here. So we copy that entire section. We don't want to waste so much time. And then we paste it there. And then we change it to experience. And then also change the heading to experience. So here you can specify your experience, where you've worked before. So let's change this. And then also you can specify the company. Let's make this bold. Let's call it Friends Restaurant from 2022 to 2024. And then right below here in the paragraph, you can add what you did or your roles, skills, and what you achieved. So we shall just put some dummy content here to replace this. Then we have another role as a social media manager. And below here, we shall give it a company name. Let's say from 2023 to 2024. And let's Let's replace the contents in the paragraph. Also, let's remove this last. We may not need it. Let's just put 2 experiences, then put that. So I hope this is visible. So experience, we have 2 experiences. Then the last section, below the section again, we shall put a break and then create a section for contacts, which is pretty much going to be similar. We give it a grid container and then grid item. So we shall give it a heading, which is contacts. And then below this, we shall create another grid item. And here we shall create a paragraph. We shall have email, hello@gendo.com. Let's put a break. Then we shall have website, in case someone wants to contact me via website, gendo.com. Let's break it there. And then we have address, PO Box 1237 Carlos Street, New York. I don't know if this street exists. This is just for our demo. So this is what we have for our HTML. So we pretty much have all the content here. We have created all the sections that we need for our resume. And when we go back to our browser, this is what we have for our resume. So now it's time for us to style it. So we make sure that we have linked our CSS here. So we shall go to styles.css. So let's style the entire, give it box sizing, border box, padding of 0, margin 0. Let me see if we can do this side by side so you can be seeing. So we shall go to Google Fonts. Let's browse some fonts. So we are going to look for a font called Montserrat, which is here. So we click on it and choose the styles. We shall choose light 300. We shall choose semi-bold and we shall choose bold. So we come in here and then copy the style. So we shall just import this, copy, go to our styles.css, right above it on top, we paste it there. And then after, we shall also copy the style, which is right below here, CSS rules. So copy it, come back to CSS, then style the body and paste it there, font family, Montserrat. And then we shall give our work background gray and then line height 1.5 rem. So that's what we have now. So let's open our browser preview and see how what we have shall look on a desktop. So back to our CSS, we shall style H1, H3, H4. Let's give them a text transform, uppercase. Give it a font weight of 600. Then line height 2 rem. So after the H1s, we shall style the paragraphs. For the paragraph, we are just giving it padding and font size. So we shall give it padding, top 10 pixels, right 0 pixels, bottom 10 pixels, left 0 pixels. And then we give it a font size of 16 pixels. So when you go back to our index, the first class we have is wrapper. So we are going to copy that class wrapper and come back to styles.css. And classes start with a dot and then copy the class name. So we shall give it a width of 50%. We give it a margin left of 25%, margin right of 25%, and then we give it a margin top of 1 rem, padding 30 pixels, and then lastly we give it a background white. So this is what we relatively have. So on a larger screen, this is how it's gonna look. So the next thing we are going to style is our header. So header, skills, and these other subsections are going to have same style. So let's go to our styles again. Header, skills, education, be careful of spellings, experience, and then contact. We shall just give it padding 10 pixels. And then let's also style our HR and give it a margin of 10 pixels. I hope this is not distracting. So on a larger screen, this is so far what we now have. All right, let's proceed to style the grid container and the grid items. So this is our resume. You can customize it the way you want. So let's give the grid container and the grid items and then call it a day. So our next is class grid dash container. Make sure the spelling is right. we shall give it a display of grid. So when we give our grid containers this and then give it a grid gap, let's just call it gap rather, 120 pixels. So when we give our items display of grid and grid gap, that is what we now have. And then the last thing we are going to style is the grid item itself. So we copy that class, paste it there. So for the grid item, we are just going to give it a property of grid row start, and then we shall press on 1. And when we go back, that is what we have. And this is basically our simple resume in HTML and CSS. You can customize it to whatever way you want. So we basically have 41 lines of CSS and about 97 lines of HTML. So I hope this video was helpful. Check it out in the GitHub repository that I'll link in the description. See you in the next video.